बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। नाज़रीन, आज के हमारे मेहमान अफ़गान सदर जनाब हामिद करज़ई साहब के चीफ़ ऑफ स्टाफ रहे, ईरान में इस्लामी जमहूरिया अफ़गानिस्तान के सफ़ीर रहे, पाकिस्तान में इस्लामी जमहूरिया अफ़गानिस्तान के सफ़ीर रहे। गुज़िश्ता सदारती इंतख़ाबात के दौरान वो अफ़गानिस्तान के वज़ीर दाखिला थे। उसके बाद भी सियासी और सफ़ारती महाज़ों पे सरगर्म अमल रहे। अब जबकि अफ़गान हुकूमत ये कोशिश कर रही है कि तालिबान के साथ मुज़ाकरात हो और उसके लिए अफ़गान हुकूमत एक रीजनल कंसेंसस भी डेवलप करना चाहती है, तो अफ़गान सदर जनाब डॉक्टर अशरफ गनी ने उनको न सिर्फ ये कि हाई पीस कौंसिल का सेक्रेटरी नामज़द किया, बल्कि रीजन की सतह पे कोऑर्डिनेशन लाने के लिए उन्होंने उनको स्पेशल रीजनल एनवाय भी 9 दिसंबर को मुकर्रर किया। उन्होंने अपने इस मिशन का आगाज़ पाकिस्तान के दौरे से किया। गुज़िश्ता रोज़ वो पाकिस्तान के दौरे पे तशरीफ़ लाए। पाकिस्तान के वज़ीर ख़ारजा से उन्होंने मुलाकात की। बताया जाता है कि वो प्रेसिडेंट अशरफ गनी की तरफ से पाकिस्तानी क़यादत के नाम ख़ास पैगाम भी लाए हैं। पाकिस्तान के सियासी रहनुमाओं से भी वो सलाह मशवरा कर रहे हैं। तो यकीनन आप पहचान गए होंगे हमारे आज के जिरगा के मेहमान प्रेसिडेंट अशरफ गनी के खसूसी नुमाइंदे यानी स्पेशल रीजनल एनवाय और अफ़गान हाई पीस कौंसिल के सेक्रेटरी जनाब मोहम्मद उमर दाऊदी साहब। बहुत शुक्रिया मोहम्मद उमर दाऊदी साहब, पाकिस्तान में वेलकम, खुशामदीद। और पहले तो ये जानना चाहूँगा कि आपका मिशन क्या है? हाई पीस कौंसिल के सेक्रेटरी की हैसियत से क्या मिशन सौंपा है अफ़गान प्रेसिडेंट ने, और फिर ये जो रीजनल एनवाय है तो उस हैसियत में क्या मिशन सौंपा है?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, Safi Saab, for inviting me to your very prestigious program. It's an honor for me. President Ashraf Ghani, as you said, asked me to take over the role of Secretary to High Peace Council and as his regional special envoy to build consensus for peace. It's two different hats, but they are related to each other. The first part, the High Peace Council, as you know, that council was established back in 2010, and it was established as a result of recommendation of Jirga. The then President Hamid Karzai held the Jirga to consult the Afghan people whether it was time that they authorize him to talk to Taliban or not. The Jirga members unanimously authorized him as the president to talk to the Taliban, and also recommended establishment of the High Peace Council. And the council was established. The council has been functioning since then. But lately President Ashraf Ghani felt that there was need for reforms in the High Peace Council to tune it and to adjust it to the current situation and to the current needs. And so one of my role is to reform the High Peace Council, to prepare it to play the role more effectively. In my second role, my job is, as you know, there is multiplicity of initiatives in our region. Initiatives all aimed at bringing peace to Afghanistan. Initiatives that are all aimed at persuading Taliban to come to negotiating table. But there is multiplicity of lines that are followed. Some of those initiatives are coordinated with each other, others are not. So as President's special envoy, one of my role is to make sure that to bring those initiatives to one platform so that they work collectively to get to the actual aim, that's bringing Taliban to negotiating table, leading to a political settlement for the 40 years long conflict.
ठीक, बाज़ लोग ये कहते हैं या ख़ुसूसन तालिबान की तरफ से ये दावा किया जाता है कि जी अफ़गान हुकूमत तो ट्रूली नुमाइंदा नहीं है, यानी ये उनका मौक़िफ़ है। तो जो हुकूमती टीम है या जो आप लोग हैं, आपको हम किस तरह माइनस तालिबान बाकी अफ़गान मिल्लत का नुमाइंदा समझे, उसके लिए आप लोगों ने क्या मेकनिज़म बनाया है कि आपकी राय में उन सब का इनपुट भी शामिल हो?
There are two sides to the issues. One side is the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan that has a president and that has a CEO. In the last election in 2014, because election went into trouble, the two runoff teams came together and made a national unity government. And both teams together have millions of votes behind them. It was not that the winner will become the president and the loser will become the opposition. Both was joined together and they made the national unity government. So in a way, it's more representative than if one of them was declared as the winner. Having said that, President Ashraf Ghani and CEO Dr. Abdullah, they are both willing and they are both decisive to make all arrangements inclusive, fully inclusive. And the peace process is included in that. Peace process also has to be inclusive. And I mean, the Islamic Republic side has to be representative of all people that lives within the umbrella or under the umbrella of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. The other side is what we call them the Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan, and what used to be called the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Now, we don't want to enter into this game that who is representing how many people of Afghanistan. That's a blame game. We want to avoid it. We want to make the Islamic Republic side more inclusive so that when they talk to Taliban, they talk from a position of inclusivity. And to make sure that inclusivity, President Ashraf Ghani came up with a new initiative that in addition to the High Peace Council, that's also representing people of Afghanistan, and it's the only organization that has a public mandate. But in addition to that, President Ashraf Ghani established what they call it at present, the Advisory Board for Peace. Now, the advisory board include all the jihadi leaders, political leaders as its members, and the board is chaired by President himself. Now, some of the political parties had some reservations that the word advisory should not be in there. It should be a decision-making board. And I'm giving that task together with a couple of other colleagues to revise the presidential decree and make sure that the new name is more decision-making body. So the board is making sure that everybody, all political parties, civil society, youth organizations, all of them are part of the board to represent the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan on the negotiating table.
लेकिन ये एक फोरम नहीं, दो नहीं, एक तरफ शुरा तफाहुम, दूसरी तरफ एडवाइजरी कौंसिल, तीसरी तरफ मुज़ाकरात की अपनी कमेटी. तो असल कमेटी अगर तालिबान मुज़ाकरात पे आमादा हो गए तो कौन करेगा मुज़ाकरात उनकी तरफ?
Okay, there was a confusion in the past 8 years that is the High Peace Council government's negotiating team? Is it facilitating body? Is it contact body? What is it? Now we are defining the actual terms of reference. And the President has appointed a government negotiating team. The job of the High Peace Council become easier to remain in the middle. You see, Taliban has their negotiating team that's sitting in Qatar, basically, is their political office. And now government has their negotiating team, which is all government members. High Peace Council now has an opportunity to re-establish itself, to reinvigorate itself in the middle, to be the facilitator, to be the host of all talks and negotiations. And assuming that in 2019 we get to a final settlement and we get to a peace settlement, we sign a peace agreement. Now it's who will supervise that? Who will own that? It's the High Peace Council. And then the advisory board, it's the overall umbrella which is headed by the president, where all those activities take place under that bigger umbrella.
एक तासुर ये भी है कि शायद अफ़गान हुकूमत खुद तालिबान के साथ डील करने में या मुज़ाकरात में संजीदा नहीं है, इसलिए ये एक नहीं, दो नहीं, उधर एक तरफ पीस कौंसिल है, दूसरी तरफ एडवाइजरी कौंसिल है, तीसरी तरफ ये है, ये ज़्यादा फोरम इसलिए बनाए जाते हैं. तो क्या अफ़गान हुकूमत सीरियस है तालिबान के साथ डील में?
It's very serious. It's deadly serious, and it has always been serious. In the past government, as you know, I was involved, and one of the reasons I was sent as President's envoy to Pakistan in 2011, because government seriously wanted to talk to Taliban and reach to a final settlement with them. And now also the present government is absolutely serious. There is no doubt about it. The multiplicity of mechanisms which are collaborating with each other, which are complementing each other, that's to make sure that there is inclusivity and there is continuity.
अच्छा, उसकी जो लोग ये शक कर रहे हैं तो वो एक दलील ये दे रहे हैं कि जी जो मौजूदा अफ़गान हुकूमत और उसमें बैठे हुए लोग हैं वो ये समझते हैं कि अगर तालिबान आ जाएं अफ़गानिस्तान की सियासत में या बाकी, तो फिर शायद ये लोग तो ख़ुद इर्रेलेवेंट हो जाएंगे या उनकी पब्लिक में उतने रूट्स नहीं हैं जितने कि तालिबान या जिहादी लीडरों के हैं, तो इसलिए भी शायद अफ़गान हुकूमत ख़ुद सीरियस नहीं है मुज़ाकरात में.
That's also not true. People of Afghanistan at present, overall, all people, can be divided into three circles. The first circle is the academic, the educated, the civil society type of people, which is the largest group now. In this particular group, we have over 1 million well-educated young Afghans. So it's the younger generation. That's the first circle. The second circle is what you refer to them as the jihadi parties. We consider them as the second circle. And the third circle is the Taliban. It is a political circle. It has influence in Afghanistan. We admit that and we recognize that. And that's why we want to have a political settlement with them. So now,
आप लोग तालिबान को political इकाई समझते हैं?
Both. It's a militant group and it's a political group. It has both dimensions, it has both identities.
अच्छा, अब जो अमेरिका और तालिबान के मुज़ाकरात हुए, अफ़गान हुकूमत माइनस हुई थी, तो इस पे अफ़गान हुकूमत खुश थी या आप लोग ऑन बोर्ड थे?
Yes, we were on board. About a year ago, a discussion started between the United States and the Afghan government and political elites of Afghanistan. The earlier informal discussion was that, is the time right that the US have a direct talk to Taliban? And why that question came up? Because Taliban was insisting that we want to talk first with Taliban and then with the Afghan government. Now the Afghan government allowed the US, and the political elites of the country rather encouraged the US to talk to Taliban. And that's how the talks started with Taliban. So far, the way the talks between the US and Taliban is going on, it is with that nature that you said you wanted to talk to me, here we are, tell us. And then Taliban gave them their message. So far as we know, the US message is that if you want settlement, now you have to talk to the Afghan government. Now that impression is totally wrong, that Afghan government has been sidelined. The talks between American and Taliban has taken place with the permission of Afghan government. Each time Ambassador Khalilzad arrives in the region, his first visit is to Kabul. He briefs and take instruction from the Afghan leadership and then goes and meet with Taliban and then come back and debrief the Afghan government before going to Washington.
साइडलाइन होना और क्या होता है दाऊदी साहब कि आपकी टीम अबू ज़ैबी गई, उधर बैठी रही, लेकिन न तालिबान उनके साथ मिलने पे आमादा हुए और न अमेरिकन उनको मजबूर कर सके कि वो उनकी मुज़ाकरात में अफ़गान हुकूमत के नुमाइंदों को भी शामिल कर ले. तो ये बड़ा कंप्रोमाइज़ नहीं किया इसने अफ़गान हुकूमत?
There was a mismanagement that we all learned a lesson from it. The Afghan government was given a message that on the first day Taliban will meet with the four government that included Pakistan, and the second day they will meet with the Afghan delegation. And the Afghan team was advised to travel to Abu Dhabi to be ready for the second day. So they traveled in a hurry rather. And then there we found that the Taliban's position was that they are only authorized by their leadership to meet with the four countries, not with the Afghan government. So the countries that were hosting were in a bit of a difficulty, and they were angry with Taliban, and after that they're still angry with Taliban that they let them down. So it was a good gesture from the Afghan government side that it gave immediately positive response. It was a good gesture for peace. But it was a bit of mismanagement that we all learned a lesson.
लेकिन ऐसे हालत में अफ़गानिस्तान के फ्यूचर से मुतालिक मुज़ाकरात हुए कि उसमें अमेरिका बैठा हो, उसमें 2 अरब ममालिक भी बैठे हों, उसमें पाकिस्तान भी बैठा हो, लेकिन अफ़गान हुकूमत ना बैठी हो, तो ये तालिबान के मौक़िफ़ की एक लिहाज से फ़तह ना हुई कि भाई असल फ़रीक अमेरिका और तालिबान है और अफ़गान हुकूमत की कोई हैसियत नहीं है?
No, I don't think it's a question of losing or winning. It's a question of misunderstanding because the Afghan government was told that on the second day Taliban will be meeting with them. Assume that the Afghan government didn't go and then the Taliban really were willing to meet with them. Then Afghan government would have been blamed that the Taliban were willing to meet but the Afghan government was reluctant. And now that earlier question that you raised, that there are some people who think that the Afghan government is not serious about talking with Taliban. So then that would have been true. I think the Afghan government did the right thing to respond in a hurry, to respond immediately, but then they learned the lesson.
अगर अफ़गान हुकूमत इजाज़त ना देती तो आप समझते हैं कि फिर अमरीकी मुज़ाकरात ना करते उनके
It would never have happened. I wasn't part of government at that time. I was part of the political class. And I was very seriously part of that discussion, and in fact I wrote about it. A 25-page note I gave to the US encouraging them to meet with Taliban. And I firmly believe that if the Afghan government took a position that it's inappropriate, then Americans would not have met with
अब
Taliban.
सेकेंड राउंड तभी होगा कि अफ़गान हुकूमत भी उसमें बैठ जाए और अगर अफ़गान हुकूमत शामिल नहीं होती तो फिर नहीं होगा?
No, contacts between US and Taliban and other countries in the region and Taliban, they are all with one aim, to facilitate talks between Afghan government and Taliban, to pave the ground for talks between Afghan government and Taliban. So if 1 or 2 more rounds of that is needed to be sure that the right time will come that Afghan government meet with Taliban, I think there's no harm.
यानी अफ़गान हुकूमत की पार्टिसिपेशन के बगैर भी 1-2 राउंड मज़ीद हो सकते हैं?
Yes, it can happen.
लेकिन अल्टीमेट रिज़ल्ट वो अफ़गान हुकूमत की पार्टिसिपेशन के बगैर कोई यानी अमेरिका और उनके दरमियान तय नहीं हो सकता.
There will never be a settlement that does not include the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan because that's the main side. That's the legitimate side of the issue.
ये एतमाद और इत्मीनान है अफ़गान गवर्नमेंट को अमेरिका के बारे में कि वो अफ़गान हुकूमत के बगैर कोई सेटलमेंट नहीं करेंगे?
Definitely, yes. We are sure of that. That without Afghan government there cannot be a settlement. There cannot be continuation of talks between US and Taliban. When the Afghan government feel that those talks should cease, be assured that it will cease.
वजह से अफ़गान हुकूमत जब मुज़ाकरात होंगे तालिबान से आप लोगों का डिमांड क्या है और अफ़गान हुकूमत जवाब में तालिबान को क्या ऑफ़र कर सकती है? क्योंकि बज़ाहिर तो हमें दोनों के मौक़िफ़ में बहुत बड़ा तज़ाद नज़र आते हैं. उनके डिमांड्स भी बज़ाहिर पूरे होते हुए नज़र नहीं आ रहे और जो अफ़गान हुकूमत के उनसे एक्सपेक्टेशन है वो भी पूरे होते नज़र नहीं आ रहे हैं.
When we meet face to face, the real demands from Taliban side will come to table, and then the Afghan government, in consultation with the people, taking approval of the Afghan public, will respond in yes or no. Let's say the Taliban's demand is to participate in the state structure. Why not? They are people of the country, they should participate. If their demand is that the US forces withdraw from Afghanistan, that's a question that can be discussed. If their demand is amendment in constitution, every Afghan has the right to ask for amendment in the constitution. So all those demands can be discussed, but once they come and sit across the table and put their demand on table.
अच्छा, अब आप तालिबान के साथ रिकन्सिलिएशन के लिए या जो अभी मुज़ाकरात है, इसके लिए अगर आप लोग रीजनल कंट्रीज़ को इन्वॉल्व करते हैं, जिसकी अभी आपको ज़िम्मेदारी दे दी गई है, तो ये आप ख़ुद पड़ोसी ममालिक की अफ़गानिस्तान में मुदाखलत का रास्ता हमवार नहीं करते? बेहतर ये ना होगा कि अफगान हुकूमत डायरेक्ट तालिबान और बेशक अमेरिका भी एक स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं, लेकिन रीजन को इन्वॉल्व करने की क्या ज़रूरत है?
Well, I hope it was that simple. You know very well that it's a very complicated problem with 40 years of history. The conflict in Afghanistan did not start between two Afghan sides. It started with the Soviet invasion, and the Soviet Union was one of the major countries in the region. It was a superpower. And then to fight against the Soviet Union, it involved many countries in the region, including Pakistan and Iran. And the problem continued. Parties are now changed, like Taliban didn't exist in the 80s. It was the Afghan Mujahideen groups. And Taliban emerged against the Afghan Mujahideen groups. Now then the US came to stop the war. Basically the US intervention was aimed at stopping the war. So it's not a conflict between two Afghan parties. It has regional dimension and it has international dimension. To solve it, to settle it, we have to involve those countries in the region, and they also have very legitimate reasons to get involved. Like Russia and Iran, they think that the Daesh is growing in Afghanistan and it's a threat for them. So they may be right. But why is Daesh growing in Afghanistan? Because there is a war. Who is not willing to come to peace? The Taliban. So they have to be involved.
अच्छा, रीजन से आपकी क्या मुराद है? किन किन ममालिक को आप इस प्रोसेस में ऑन बोर्ड लेना चाहेंगे?
All countries that are neighbors with Afghanistan and that are near neighbors in Afghanistan that had been involved one way or the other in the past 40 years.
अच्छा, नियर नेबर से आप इंडिया को भी इसमें शामिल करेंगे?
Yes, certainly. India, Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, they are all involved one way or the other.
ये जो आपका मैंडेट है जिन ममालिक का, तो इसमें ये सब आ जाते हैं? टर्की, इंडिया, ईरान। अच्छा,
they are included.
तो अब सबसे पहले आ जाते हैं पाकिस्तान की तरफ।
Yes.
पहली बात तो ये कि पाकिस्तान के अब तक के रोल को अफगान हुकूमत किस तरह देखती है?
Well, I don't want to go to the past. In the past, there had been problem in relationship, in roles.
जी।
There have been blame games.
मैं अब करंट की बात कर रहा हूँ कि इस वक्त
at present, the role Pakistan is playing is giving all the positive signals to us that they are trying to facilitate. They are trying to persuade Taliban to come and talk to the Afghan government face to face.
अच्छा, आप लोग यानी इस पे मुतमईन है कि इस वक्त पाकिस्तान पॉजिटिवली अपना रोल?
All signs speaks of that.
ठीक। अच्छा, फिर अभी आपके मज़ीद एक्सपेक्टेशन क्या है? किन एक्सपेक्टेशन के साथ आप पाकिस्तान तशरीफ़ लाए हैं?
This one, the same. Keep the course. You have started well. Foreign Minister Qureshi visited Kabul twice within 10 days. And his second visit, he started from Kabul and then went around the region. And in Kabul, he gave all the right messages. And all the capitals he visited, he gave all the right messages. So basically, my mission this time was to offer thanks to him, thanks to the government of Pakistan, that they have a good beginning. They need to keep the course. We appreciate their role in bringing Taliban or persuading Taliban to come to negotiating table.
ठीक, ये भी हम सुन रहे हैं आजकल कि आप कोई ख़ुसूसी पैगाम भी लेकर आए हैं पाकिस्तानी प्राइम मिनिस्टर के नाम प्रेसिडेंट अशरफ गनी की तरफ से?
It's all positive messages. It's messages of brotherhood. It's messages of trust. It's messages that let's leave past behind us. There's change in Pakistan. It's new government. There's changes in the region. So let's adjust ourselves to the changes in the region. And there are changes in the world. Let's adjust our bilateral relationship in the context of the changing region and the changing global policies in global relationship.
अच्छा, तो फिर अगर इतना आजकल जो है रोल पॉजिटिव हो गया है और आप लोग भी उसको पॉजिटिव साइंस करार देते हैं, तो फिर ज़रा ये राब्ता जो कुछ अरसे से मुनक़ते हो गया है लीडर्स की सतह पे, तो फिर प्रेसिडेंट अशरफ गनी पाकिस्तान क्यों तशरीफ़ नहीं लाते? इमरान खान साहब को क्यों नहीं बुलाया जाता? उस लेवल तक क्यों मामले को नहीं?
That would be done soon. You would witness, inshallah, very soon, highest level, most friendliest relationship.
ठीक। और इस वक्त जो अफ़गान हुकूमत का जो इमीडिएट डिमांड है पाकिस्तानी हुकूमत से, वो सिर्फ़ और सिर्फ तालिबान और अफ़गान हुकूमत के मुज़ाकरात में फैसिलिटेशन का है।
Yes, but that cannot be only that. We are two neighbors that have a lot in common, that we depend on each other. We know Pakistan understand that the security in Pakistan depends on security in Afghanistan. Stability in Pakistan depends on stability in Afghanistan, and vice versa. And then we have excellent trade opportunities that are coming up. We have within the region, there are prospects of cooperating with each other within the region. So the message is broad, the offer is broad, the context is broad, but the one immediate issue that is burning is to bring Taliban to negotiating table.
इससे पहले जब एक रीजनल सॉल्यूशन की कोशिश की गई मॉस्को में, और उसमें चीन भी शरीक था, पाकिस्तान भी शरीक था, तो हमने देखा कि अमरीकी उस पे खुश नहीं है। अब रीजन की सतह पे, बल्कि आलमी सतह पे रूस और अमेरिका की भी कन्फ्रंटेशन है। चीन और अमेरिका भी एक दूसरे के हरीफ हैं। ईरान के साथ भी अमेरिका के ताल्लुकात बहुत ख़राब है। पाकिस्तान और अमेरिका तक का तो एक लव एंड हेट होता है। तो जब आप इन सब को इन्वॉल्व कर रहे हैं मामले में और प्रोसेस में, तो क्या अमेरिकी उस पे खुश होंगे? अमरीकी आपको मना नहीं करेंगे? अमरीकियों का NOC है अफ़गान हुकूमत को कि ठीक है आप इन ममालिक को भी इन्वॉल्व करें?
Well, America is our partner, and there are countries that are our neighbors and our partners. America is our friend, and there are countries in the region that are our brothers. So we have to keep a balance between them. The question of NOC from America doesn't arise. We want to look at it from a different angle. Now, the American special envoy, Ambassador Khalilzad, has been frequently traveling to the region, and there are regional initiatives that he cannot interact with. For instance, the Tehran meeting between Iranian and Taliban, Ambassador Khalilzad cannot interact with that. And the Russian initiative, Ambassador Khalilzad could not interact well with that. But we can do that. Iran is our neighbor, Russia is our neighbor. In the Russian talks, Afghan delegation participated. The High Peace Council's delegation was in the Russian talks. Now, in Iran also, before they invite Taliban for a meeting, the National Security Advisor of Iran traveled to Kabul. They took permission from the Afghan government, and they took points. They took suggestions also. And after their meeting with Taliban, the Deputy Foreign Minister of Iran visited Kabul to debrief us and to define the next steps. So that part we coordinate very well because Americans cannot interact. Now, when it comes to Pakistan, to Arab countries, we can work together. Even in future, we might visit some capitals together.
पाकिस्तान का तो बहुत चर्चा था, क्या ईरान, रूस, चीन वगैरह का भी तालिबान पे कोई इन्फ्लुएंस है?
Well, if I can't use in their context the word influence. The word influence applies to Pakistan because Pakistan has been hosting a Taliban leadership for a very long time, whether it's in the context of refugee leaders or whatever. But most of Taliban leadership has been in Pakistan. That has not been the case in Russia, for instance. Iran, it's a bit mixture. In the past, they had very bad relationship with Taliban. Now they are running sort of good relationship with Taliban. We don't yet know that they are running good relationship with all Taliban or with some Taliban. But we are looking at their initiatives also with positive eyes because they have concerns in Afghanistan. They have interest in Afghanistan. They're legitimate interest. We respect them. And at the same time, we expect them to use every opportunity to communicate to Taliban that ultimately there cannot be a solution without a face-to-face talk between Taliban and the Afghan government. And we are sure that all countries in the region are doing that.
आज के जरगे में हमारे मुअज़्ज़ज़ मेहमान हैं मोहम्मद उमर दाऊदी साहब, जो पाकिस्तान में अफ़गानिस्तान के साबिक़ सफ़ीर रहे हैं, साबिक़ इंटीरियर मिनिस्टर हैं और इस वक्त हाई पीस काउंसिल के सेक्रेटरी और रीजन के लिए अफ़गान प्रेसिडेंट अशरफ गनी के स्पेशल इन्वॉय हैं। उसी से अभी तक हमने देखा था कि ये मुख्तलिफ़ ममालिक जो मुख्तलिफ़ प्लेयर्स हैं, वो ईरान और अमेरिका भी हो, वो रूस और अमेरिका भी हो, वो पाकिस्तान और इंडिया भी हो, तो बदकिस्मती से वो अपने प्रॉक्सीज़ के ज़रिए अफ़गानिस्तान में एक दूसरे के साथ लड़ रहे हैं। और पाकिस्तान का ये एक मुसल्लमा राय रहा है कि जी इंडिया अफ़गान साहिल को हमारे ख़िलाफ़ इस्तेमाल कर रहा है। तो अभी क्या ये मुमकिन होगा कि पाकिस्तान और इंडिया जैसे ममालिक वो एक फ़ोरम पे बैठ जाएं अफ़गानिस्तान के फ्यूचर के लिए? आप लोग बिठा सकेंगे दोनों को?
Well, I think there are some good signals, good messages coming in that respect also. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi was perhaps the first foreign minister in 40 years who said that India could play a role in the peace process in Afghanistan. This we had never heard before. So there are changes, there are good messages, and we hear that similar good messages from India also. But we don't want to make our issue complicated. There is tension between Pakistan and India, very old tension. Afghans suffer, but we can't do much about it. There are other tensions around us. All we want to do is that when it comes to the peace process, we want a better coordination and better collaboration among all those stakeholders.
ये जो आपके पार्टनर हैं डोनाल्ड ट्रंप साहब, वो कुछ आपके मामले को ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड नहीं कर रहे हैं? मुख्तलिफ सिग्नल्स दे के पहले अफ़गान पॉलिसी में कुछ और कहा, फिर अभी ड्रा डाउन का इशारा दिया, फिर कभी कहते हैं कि रीजनल ममालिक संभाले अफ़गानिस्तान को, तो वो इस वक्त अफ़गान मसले को ज़्यादा ख़राब नहीं कर रहा?
We know President Trump is a very unconventional president and the circumstances in Washington are unconventional. What is important for us is the level of cooperation between the RS commander and our Afghan National Security and Defense Forces. That relationship is not affected by whatever President Trump has said so far, because none of what he has said so far has been translated into policy or strategy. The Southeast Asia strategy is still holding. It's still the official strategy, and General Miller is implementing that. And our other partner in terms of our relationship with US is the US ambassador in Kabul. We hear all the right things from the US ambassador in Kabul, but we know the Washington is unconventional circumstances. In Washington there are unconventional circumstances.
ये ख़तरा आप लोग महसूस नहीं करते कि खुदा न खास्ता अफ़गानिस्तान में 89 को एक वर्ष शक्ल में रिपीट कर दिया जाएगा और अमरीकी भी कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि डोनाल्ड ट्रंप यहाँ पे हल निकाले बग़ैर अफ़गानिस्तान से निकल जाए और अफ़गानिस्तान खुदा न खास्ता दोबारा उस पोजीशन की तरफ चला जाए?
No, because we have our relationship with the US plus other 13 countries organized in a framework that we call it the strategic partnership framework. And with US then we have the security partnership agreement. Now I don't think they can change that overnight, or President Trump can change that overnight. I mean the cooperation. Let me put it in a different way. The US troops presence is one specific issue that is less needed now. It may not be needed tomorrow to be in Afghanistan. It was badly needed yesterday. But the partnership between Afghanistan and US, that is long term. We know that partnership is going to last for very long. And as part of that partnership, the US is going to support the Afghan National Security and Defense Forces for a long time to come. And they have supported. Our forces have come up very well. The Air Force part still needs more support, and we are sure that that cannot cease. We have never heard from President Trump a complete cutting off assistance to Afghanistan. That's not on the table. It's drawdown of the soldiers in Afghanistan. That doesn't concern us a lot because we have our forces coming up.
अब अफ़गानिस्तान में अमरीकी फोर्सेस कितने हैं और उनका रोल क्या है? कम्बैटिंग रोल है या सिर्फ रेड्स की इजाज़त है? अफ़गान आर्मी को फैसिलिटेट सिर्फ कर रही है?
You remember 2014 was the year of transition, that the leadership and the command of forces were transitioned into Afghan forces by the end of 2014, which I oversaw that as Minister of Interior. Part of it was relating to me. Now, by 2016, as per President Obama's strategy, the number of soldiers had to come down to 0, but it didn't, because of what happened in Kunduz, what happened in Farah, that was delayed. So the role officially after 2014 is that of training and coaching and enabling, supplying enablers. That's their role. But occasionally, because the US mandate in Afghanistan to combat terrorism, that is still valid. So when within that umbrella of counter-terrorism, there is need for US special forces, they sometimes intervene.
सेकेंड लास्ट क्वेश्चन, जो प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन है वो डिले कर दिया गया, उसकी वजह क्या है? ये तालिबान के साथ मुज़ाकरात के कंटेक्स्ट में उसको डिले किया गया है या उसकी कुछ वजह और है?
You know, our election is managed by Independent Election Commission. It is independent, they make independent decisions. Now, they mismanaged the parliamentary election. It's nearly 3 months now that the election was over, but the final result is still missing. So without completing the parliamentary election, the IEC thought that they could not embark on presidential election. They had to close the book of the parliamentary election first. So that's why they decided to delay election for 3 months. It was the decision of IEC. It has nothing to do with peace talks. It has nothing to do with government.
आखिरी सवाल जी, जब मुज़ाकरात होते हैं दोनों तरफ से कुछ CBMs किए जाते हैं, गुडविल जेस्चर दिए जाते हैं, लेकिन अब हालिया दिनों में आपकी तकर्री तो दूसरा मामला है, आपका तो सब फरीकों के साथ अच्छे ताल्लुकात रहे हैं, ईरान के साथ भी, पाकिस्तान के साथ भी, तालिबान के साथ भी माजी में आपने नेगोशिएट किया है, लेकिन दो जो तकर्रियाँ हुई हैं, एक डिफेंस मिनिस्टर की हैसियत से असदुल्ला खालिद की और दूसरा इंटीरियर मिनिस्टर की हैसियत से अमरुल्लाह साले की, तो दोनों बड़े एंटी पाकिस्तान भी समझे जाते हैं और तालिबान के मामले में भी बड़े हार्ड लाइनर भी समझे जाते हैं। तो आप नहीं समझते कि ये थोड़ा सा इस मामले में फैसिलिटेशन की बजाय उनकी ये तकर्री या दो हार्ड लाइनर्स की वो एक हर्डल साबित होगा?
No, not really, because it's a very different issue. Like election is a very different issue. That's also a very different issue. In the sense that, you know, Taliban are trying to gain an upper hand in the battlefield before coming to negotiating table. Or if and when they want to come to negotiating table, they want to have a stronger position in battlefield. This is natural between two warring sides. So the Afghan government's responsibility is also exactly the same, that if and when they are talking to Taliban, they have to speak from position of strength. So they always have to bring improvement in the Afghan national security and defense forces structure and their leadership. So there was some areas of weaknesses in the forces. That's why they brought these two gentlemen who didn't need any orientation. They knew the job, they have done it before, maybe with different portfolios. But I can assure you that it's not done with the intention of them, both of them being a friend of another country or a foe of another country. It's done based on their potential efficiency to lead the Afghan national security and defense forces.
एक्सीलेंसी मोहम्मद उमर दाऊदज़ई साहब, बहुत शुक्रिया।
थैंक यू।
जरगा में तशरीफ़ लाने का, हमारे स्टूडियो में तशरीफ़ लाने का, वक्त निकालने का आपका बड़ा मसरूफ़ सफ़र रहा। नाज़रीन, मोहम्मद उमर दाऊदज़ई साहब के एक बार फिर शुक्रिया के साथ ये अर्ज़ करना चाहूँगा कि यकीनन मैं ज़ाती तौर पर तो अफ़गानिस्तान के बारे में रिपोर्टिंग करते भी थक गया, तज्ज़िये करते भी थक गए और इल्तिजाए करते भी थक गए। इसलिए आइए अब सब मिलके अल्लाह के हुजूर दुआ करते हैं कि अल्लाह ताला अफ़गानिस्तान को भी दायमी अमन और खुशहाली का मरकज़ बना दे और अल्लाह ताला पाकिस्तान को भी दायमी अमन और खुशहाली का मरकज़ बना दे और अल्लाह ताला पाकिस्तान और अफ़गानिस्तान दोनों को ऐसा हकीकी दोस्त और भाई बना दे कि दुनिया के दीगर पड़ोसी ममालिक इस दोस्ती पे और इस भाई बंदे पे रश कर सके। इजाज़त दीजिए, अल्लाह हाफ़िज़।